So I've gotten a lot of requests over the last week about which color profile I am using. If you are a Mac user, then you probably have searched high and low to kind of find a color profile that works really well with Macs. I know I was excited when I got my sublimation printer to start right away, and I did my first print and the colors were completely off. So I then downloaded the Cosmos color profile thinking, oh goodness, this will fix my problems. And it turns out that my browns were a little bit red and my beiges were a little bit copper. And so that wasn't the right fix for me as a Mac user as well. And so I finally just decided that I'm going to test multiple color profiles in different programs. And so I use the following programs to test color profiles. I used Photoshop, Illustrator, and I also used Silhouette Studio. What I found for me as a Mac user is that Silhouette Studio created a more vibrant and saturated image for me when I printed and pressed. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is to try different softwares and different color profiles. But today I'm going to present to you what I found to produce the most vibrant and accurate colors. In other words, what I'm seeing on the screen is actually what prints and presses and looks very similar to what I see on the screen. So this is Silhouette Studio. I am actually a Cricut user. However, I do use the Silhouette Studio software to design and to print my sublimation prints. So this is actually a request from a customer. So we'll kind of go through this. And so I'm going to press Command P. When I press Command P, the print settings are going to come up. I'm going to press this print dialog key, and then from there I actually enter into my sublimation print settings. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the correct printer is set. So this is my Epson Ecotank 2720 and it's my sublimation printer. Then from there you're going to click on this toolbar here. I do nothing with layout. I go directly into color matching, and from color matching, it automatically defaulted to Epson color controls. And I found that with Epson color controls that my prints were not as vibrant as they were when I selected color sync. I do know that there are some people who use Macs and prefer the Epson color controls, but again, I just did not have the same success. So here's what I use. I use the color profile that's sRGB, and then you guys can see the rest of that there. And the way that I got to that was by clicking on the toolbar and clicking on other profiles. And there will be tons of profiles in here, right? And for PC users, they would list that Adobe RGB 1998 would work perfectly for them. But again, I tested that and it just did not work very well for me. I mentioned that I tried Cosmos Ink color profile, and again that just did not work well for me. So I just kept scrolling and scrolling, and eventually since this is alphabetized, I got to sRGB, and this is the one that worked the best for me. Then after I had my color sync set, the next thing that I wanted to do was go over to printer features, and within the printer feature setting, we'll walk through this. So for page setup, I put standard. For paper size, this was a big deal for me. I had a lot of people tell me you can only print 8.5 by 11 with an Epson Ecotank 2720, but shortly thereafter, I figured out that you actually can print 8.5 by 14. You have to change your paper size settings. So in paper size settings, you're going to select US legal if you want to print by 8.5 by 14, or you can select US letter if you're printing 8.5 by 11. So for me, I prefer to maximize my paper sizes. So most often I'll print from an 8.5 by 14 sheet of paper. The next thing that was key for me, and I tested a few different media types, was selecting the premium presentation paper matte. I believe with a new update to the drivers, which I haven't done, you have to choose the Epson matte media type. So premium presentation paper matte was by far the most vibrant producing, but second to that was the plain paper or the bright white paper. So you can choose what works best for you. But again, I found that number one, premium presentation paper matte was most successful in producing vibrant colors. And then secondly was plain paper, bright white paper. So if you don't have this premium presentation paper matte, maybe consider using that plain paper, bright white paper. I also hear that this setting right here uses less ink, so it might be beneficial if you're looking to save ink over time. The next setting is the grayscale. I leave that off unless, of course, I'm printing just purely black and white. For mode, I selected advanced. For automatic, I set it to quality. And then for printer quality, I chose high quality. I did see a slight difference between selecting quality and high quality. And so I chose, I love my images when I print on high quality. So I chose to set it at high quality. You always want to mirror your image, so I put mirror image on. And then in terms of color settings, you want this to stay at manual. You don't want to fix the photo, and you don't want it off, because if you turn it off, it won't do any of the color adjustments. It won't do the color sync, right? The next key component that you need to set within the printer features is the mode. And so that's going to be Adobe RGB. I tried Epson Vivid, and again, my colors just were not as vibrant. They just weren't as saturated, and I was extremely unhappy. So I switched over to Adobe RGB. And for my gamma, I actually selected 1.8. You do have the option of 2.2, but again, once again, when I print tested with 1.8 and 2.2, the colors were more vibrant. They were more saturated with a gamma level of 1.8. And I know that there's this blue kind of screenshot floating around, and it tells you to select 2.2. But my guess is that that's probably for our PC users. So again, this is me with a MacBook Air and an Epson Ecotank 2720, just telling you what works best for me. For the Epson color LUT, I left it as normal. For advanced settings, this is on, but I do not adjust any of the brightness, contrast, saturation, or color settings. That's just me. And then the next thing that I adjusted was the sharpen. And I know that when I looked at about 20 videos, none of them had this on. But what I found was when it was off versus when it was on is that it made the image more clear and more sharp. And so I chose to turn it on. And then for my sharpness option, I chose high so that it would resharpen that image. Finally, as we move to the bottom of the screen, for color matching, I selected the vendor color matching. I found that when I chose the color sync matching, that the colors were just not as vibrant. And then for color custom matching profile, I chose that sRGB, since that's what I used for my color sync properties, right, you guys? For expansion, I chose max. And then for Epson profile, you need to select the Epson IJ Printer 07. My color model is RGB, and then my media type again is going to be premium presentation matte. For other items in this drop down list, I honestly do not adjust them at all. So I don't adjust the paper handling feature at all. I don't adjust the layout at all. And so I hope this has been extremely helpful. One thing that I found was important was once I had all my settings the way that I wanted them, then I saved my presets. So that way now when I print, I don't have to worry about setting up all of those intricate details before I print. So if you use this color profile, then you should save it so that way when you print, you can just click print and not have to readjust your settings. I hope this has been helpful. Again, this is just what has worked for me and what I've been successful with. I've used this color profile for both mugs and tumblers, but then also for t-shirts, and across all three products, the color profile for a Mac user tends to pop. So I hope this has been helpful. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is my very first tutorial, but I'm looking forward to doing more along